Guys, today here I have a little bit of a different video. I wanted to show off some of the special abilities and cards of Malta. Now I played a game, just a kind of a cheat game with my friend, just and had him, set a guy there so I could test it on him and stuff. And I found some interesting things. Now the first thing I want to take a look at was the burn damage. Now, the burn damage is for fire throwers. There's a few other units that I believe have it, but after they do their initial attack, their opponent takes burn damage, which just is like 1 to 2 ticks after. I think it's the max I saw was 3 ticks, like at 3 seconds. It'll take damage every second. Now the ticks seemed a bit random, but what I saw was that it did seem random. So sometimes I saw 0 or 1 tick, sorry, and other times I saw 3. The damage output seemed to be at a base of a little less than 1. So age 2, if you had one fire thrower hit a guy, he didn't even take any burn damage. It appeared. I think he did, but it was a point something. So if you attacked him again, maybe then it would take the burn damage, because then it would put him over the threshold. Because if he took .6 burn damage the time before, this time he's taking another .6, so it actually pushes him over the edge to take it shows in the hit points that it took damage. Age 3, the veteran upgrade, gives them 20% more than that, and it appeared to put it a little bit over 1. So after I did the age 3 upgrade, I consistently saw a tick of 1 or 2. So it would tick 2 times, but it usually do like 1 damage. Age 4, it does it 30% more, so I usually saw a tick of, again, about 1 to 2 ticks of damage. So it seemed like basically this thing was not that useful. If you get a massive flamethrowers, that is about 50 to maybe even 100 extra damage you're doing in an area when they all shoot, because they're all doing a tick of about 1 to 2. It didn't seem that useful, but it might on larger scales actually be able to tip the tide of some battles, especially against Hussar type units, because if you have 50 guys that are shooting a tick of 2 at a Hussar, that's 100 extra damage, which is crazy. Now, it does a little bit more to buildings. So the max I saw to buildings was a tick of 3. Let me go ahead and play this. The max I saw against buildings was a tick of 3 damage. Or 3 ticks of 3 damage. So the max 9 extra damage. Which just can be a lot if you have 50 guys. And it appeared to stack. This is a little test I'm doing afterwards. So it appeared to stack. And what I saw was that if you have, 20 fire throwers shoot at a building, if each of those do the least amount of ticks of, 1 tick of 3 damage, that's what, 20 times 3, like 60 extra damage per shot, which is pretty crazy. And if it gets 2 ticks or 3 ticks, wait, I think I did that wrong. Yeah, 20 times 3 damage, yeah, that's 60. And if you get 2 ticks that happen to hit, then you have, let me see, 120 damage. It just kind of stacks. So the more guys you have, the more this tick seems to be doing. Well, on one, if you have one fire thrower doing something, it might only do 1 damage. So it is a little unique. I couldn't get over 9 extra damage from a single fire thrower with the siege. So yeah, it appeared the max ticks that could happen was 3 with a damage of 3 post-imp. And against units, the max I saw was 3 ticks of 1 damage. Although against one infantry unit, I think I saw 2 ticks of 2, so it was about 4 damage. So it might, at most against military units, I think the highest each single tick, the damage it'll be, is gonna be 2 damage. Although maybe on certain units it might be 3, depending on how the multipliers work. But it was so inconsistent that I didn't really see that the multipliers do much at all. The next card I wanted to talk about is here, let me look up what this card is called. It's a little bit different. Malta AOE3, let me just look this up. I forget what it's called. Let me find this. It is the card that boosts their damage, like their military units' damage when around walls. I forget. Okay, yeah, here it is. It is the wall guns. Wow, that what a name. So this is the wall guns card that I'm looking at here, and it gives your sentinels more range depending on how many walls they're next to. Now, I didn't see a whole lot of consistency with this either, except that it seemed to max out at +6 range and +6 damage for a total of 19 range if they had 6 walls around them. Now, as we'll see here, I don't know if you can see my mouse cursor, maybe I should make it bigger, but he has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, about 6 walls next to him in this area, and that all appears to be in range, and that gives him that bonus 6 damage and bonus 6 range. Which, you know, a 19 range Musk is pretty crazy, except that this is unrealistic. You're not having 6 walls within that closer range unless you're extreme wall lamer, which is just kind of boring. So, realistically, this card might give you 2-3 range, which is okay, and 2 and 3 damage, which is okay. But I most likely would not use this in a real game because I just rather have a different card, an eco card, whatever. And I mean 2 to 3 range in the late game like that is not like 19 range. Say +6 range is a big deal if you can get 6 walls around him. But in the late game, 2 to 3 range just isn't worth it if it's only for defense in your town basically where you have your walls. The other card I'm looking at here, what kind of moved on in the video here, is the DE3DE Towers. I don't know how you say it. It's DEREDIN Towers. I don't know. I'm assuming that's how I say it, but it's probably not, honestly. And this is the tower that allows you to build Maltese infantry from your outposts. Now, this is a little unique card because unlike your hospitals, you can build all your infantry, namely the most important one being you can also build your fire throwers, which as you can see here. I do have used this in games, and I found it rather useful because it allows you to fit, because of the size of the outposts, it allows you to fit barracks / arsenals, or artillery foundries rather. It allows you to fit those in a very small place in between walls. So it allows you to build a lot of walls and get in between them very easily, and it mixes both those units. So if you're getting mass fire throwers, it might be worth this because then you don't have to pay extra and take up all the extra space for hospitals and your artillery foundries. You can just have outposts. And plus it makes you more able to defend those outposts from being attacked, which I think all that's pretty cool. So far, I found it to be a pretty cool card. I think the shipment for competitive, I don't think it's going to be useful because it's just 2 outposts. So I don't know how useful that'll be. If they upped it to 3 outposts, I would probably use it in competitive. But as is right now, most of the time, you're not going to be wanting to send a card. But in the late game, honestly, I find this card very helpful. It allows you to be more places, to build more units, and especially to mass fire throwers more easily. So overall, I think it's a good card. I would definitely put it in my late game deck. Now the next thing, here, let me just skip ahead a little bit. The next thing which I would not put in my, as you can see from that test there, I was showing how you can't fit a hospital in this spot, and you definitely couldn't put a hospital and an artillery foundry there, but you can put that outpost. So that's what's big there. The next thing I wanted to look at was the fire tower. I forget what this is called. It's like the fire. It's the one that turns your towers into fire towers. This card is not very useful. I've been using it in competitive games and stuff. I didn't know if it was worth it, and I didn't really know how good it was, but from my testing, it appeared to be not that great. The thing I tested against here was Hussars. Now, Age 3, here's the thing. Age 3, it's worth about 600 resources, just due to it giving you the the second upgrade for outposts. So they what are they, guard towers, I think, whatever they are. The age 3 upgrade for them, it gives them more hit points and attack and stuff. it automatically gives that, and it's worth about 600 resources, which already, 600 resource card for age 3, But the fire ability is interesting itself. Now, the number one reason that this fire ability is better than basic attack is, well, it ignores range resist. Now, age 4, the fire tower doesn't matter anymore as much, or the fire damage, because the bombard attack that towers have already ignore range resist. But age 3, when your towers usually don't ignore range resist, this can be a big deal, and it does slight area damage. So I tested against Hussars, so I did 10 Hussars without the fire tower card, and I did 10 with the fire tower card. And when I had 10 Hussars attack a tower without it, I almost killed one Hussar before the tower went down. But when I did have it, I almost killed 2 due to the area damage, but it still died. That doesn't seem to be that great, and that alone, because oftentimes I am using towers to counter cav, sort of, since it doesn't seem to do that much more damage against Hussars, I don't know that that's worth it. And if the Hussars are spread out more, well, it's even less useful. So I'm not sure on that front if that's that useful. But against things like skirmishers, infantry with the with range resist, it will do a lot more. So if you're facing, maybe the only time I would ever use this card is if you're playing someone who just builds skirms. But honestly, it's really not going to be useful, because I'd rather send 1,000 gold and use that to build Hussars to counter skirms, or fire throwers to counter skirms. So in reality, not that great of a card. Like, I think it needs a little buff, especially age 4 really falls behind, because the age 4 bombard attack already ignores range resist. But age 3 itself is also not that useful. So, it's whatever. But overall, those are some of the unique cards and things I wanted to look at. There are obviously all these technical things. One thing I also want to do a little more in-depth video about through gameplay is the gunpowder depot, and see exactly how much that helps, because it does a 10% attack speed boost to all your gunpowder units and buildings, so forts attack faster and all that. So I want to do a full in-game video about that and see how useful it is to drop those down. But this is just some of the gimmicky cards I wanted to look at, and obviously the burning ability. And I hope I added some insight here. I hope I explained myself well. But overall, I would not use the wall boost card. I would not be using the fire tower boost card. Late game, I would use the de-redden thing. That is pretty useful in the late game. But the burning damage seems to be fairly good on mass, but one-on-one and smaller scale, it doesn't do as much. So, I hope I added some insight, and I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.